Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela. And welcome back to my little series I started here last week. And I didn't say it in the previous video of this that I did, but these are totally my thoughts and opinions on cardstock quality. And I've just noticed here lately, this year especially, a lot of mass market publishing companies are trying to change up their cardstock and you know, they're listening to the public and they're kind of trying to change things up, and I wanted to recognize that, and I started a little series. The first video was US Games. I'll link that below. So I wanted to, this is actually the publishing company that really got me wanting to do a series of videos like this. So this one is Schiffer or Red Feather, or they're the same. Now, they're the same company. There are two different logos. One is like a circle with a feather pen, and then one is like a feather. So you'll see here, I'll show you the two different logos, but they are the same publishing. They're under the same umbrella of publishing company. So I've mixed those two together because I only have 10 decks. And since I did US Games 10 decks, I decided to do 10 decks for this video as well. So if you're just tuning in, this is a little series I started on my thoughts and opinions. Not everybody's going to feel the same on cardstock quality. It's cardstock hits and misses. And this time we're taking a look at Red Feather or Schiffer decks. So without further ado, actually, it's funny because I did all the hits in the beginning, and we're actually going to start at the bottom of my list. For all the misses, we're going to save the best for last, right? So the first one, and I actually have it in a little bag here, because the book and the bag or deck fits in it. It is the Austera Tarot. Got a little guidebook here. The cardstock on this is horrendous. Not because it's silver gilded. It is regular card size, which we'll get into that in a minute because a lot of these decks aren't. It does shuffle well, but the silver gilding bites into my hands. When I got the deck, I had to literally, as I'm doing my walkthrough, and if I remember, I'll post it below, I had to literally pry the cards apart. They were stuck together. And I was praying through the whole video that I wouldn't break them or rip them apart, because it was that bad. It was, every card was like tearing apart. But despite that, this is a very different kind of deck from RWS. And despite that, I really, it's funny because most of these decks in my Schiffer or Red Feather decks actually has a specific purpose. This one I noticed it works really well for past life readings. So this is literally all I use it for. There's something about it that just does wonders. And like I said, I did a past life video a few months back using this deck. I pulled the devil card for myself, and I had said that I was a swindler in a past life, in the life that I was in the deck. I was a swindler. I was a cheat. I was a male. I was always getting into trouble because I was always swindling people out of money, and maybe I wasn't very good at it because I was always getting caught and ran out of town or whatever. So the devil card was fitting for that. But yeah, this is funny because I was on Pinterest one day looking at decks, or looking at different images, and this image popped up, and I'm like, that is the sweetest freaking frog and 3 of Wands ever. You got the little boats, he's fishing, and it's so cute. And then I had to find it, and of course I found the deck, and it was the Austera Tarot, and I immediately bought it. It was like 15 bucks. I think it's 20 now on Amazon. I had to literally pry the cards apart, and now I have one missing. I don't know what card it is, but but I only have 77 cards in here. And I'm like, I don't understand where the card went, because they've been in this bag since the last time I read with them. So I don't know where the card went. So I don't know if I'm just going to use this kind of like an oracle deck now because of that. But here's the red feather. Here's the red feather symbol on the back on the book for this deck. So that's deck 1. And that, of course, is a cardstock miss. So deck 2, and this is where one of my first, well, not one of my first, but, and I made a patch for it because the box is huge, the book is huge, the deck was huge. I had to cut off the borders. It had a silver biting gilding, just like the Austero Tarot did. It's huge oracle card size, even after I've trimmed at least an inch off all the sides. Because it had these white borders and then huge blue borders. But I only bought this deck as a project to trim, to practice my trimming and modding skills. And then I worked with it. I made the mistake of working with this deck, and I was like, oh my God. It was fan-flipping-tastic. Other than the fact that I modded it perfectly. It's a perfect mod. It came out very even. It shuffles amazingly well now, much better than it did before. Because I couldn't even give it a shuffle before. And then I edged it in this beautiful purple to match the purple on the back, which came out perfect. But despite that, I found that this deck is my emotional security blanket, if that makes any sense. I don't have a very emotional, I have a very emotional, angry emotions, but I don't dive deep into, like sorrow and loss or even happiness and emotions very often, because I know those are things that are triggers for me. So this deck actually gave me that space, allowed that space for me to be able to take a breath and say, you know what? You can cry if you need to. Because I was taught not to cry. You don't cry at things. That's weakness. And this is my very much emotional watery deck because of that. Because it gave me the space to allow me to allow myself to have emotional moments. And for that, this is one of my top 10 decks ever. Despite the fact that it's horrendous cardstock. And they're humongous cards. I would actually, because of the emotional attachment I now have to this deck, I wouldn't want them smaller because the images are so stunning. So stunning. So stunning. But it actually has given me, and then look at that, my soul card on the bottom, the chariot, or the canoe. It's given me the emotional maturity I needed to kind of overcome certain things. And for that, it will always be in my collection and in my top 10 favorite decks. Despite the miss on the cardstock. So that's deck 2. Oh my God, we need to hurry this up. So that was deck 2. Deck 3 is the Guardian Tarot. And here's the red feather on that. This is a newer kind of deck. I love the size. Comes with a little book. I edged it in this light blue and pink to match the backs. This deck gives me, especially with this card in particular, it lets you know you're not alone. There's beings, whether they're spirits, whether they're guides, anything, that live alongside us and do a daily life alongside us, just in another dimension, or another, I guess another dimension, I want to say. But every now and then, those dimensions cross, or we ascend to a higher plane of existence in our mind to where we can see them. And that's what this deck does for me. I'm not necessarily saying aliens. I'm just saying beings. It could be angels. It could be guides. It could be spirits. It could be all of those above. But that's what this deck is for me. And I freaking love it for that. I shuffle it sideways. It is a thick cardstock and glossy, of course, which I hate. But despite the miss on this deck, I freaking love it because it opened my mind to other world possibilities. I love it. So that's deck 3. Deck 4 was probably my first Schiffer deck. And this is, let me see. This is what it looks like on here. It's the Schiffer, the feather and the pen and the circle. I had to trim this to be able to even really use it. I trimmed it off the sides and edged it in purple. It is still the thick, glossy cardstock. This is a great deck, though. Hold on. Sorry. That was my husband calling me. Anyway, I freaking love this deck. Everybody has this deck. Everybody loves this deck. Love this tower. It's probably my favorite tower ever. Despite the cardstock miss, it's a fabulous deck. It actually kind of bridges the Guardian Tarot, I think, with another tarot, I feel like, but it's not one of these decks. It's a beautiful deck, and it's very otherworldly to me, and I love it. It's like, I love this card here. I love being able to go into this deck and go into this other world. And there's the Schiffer logo here. But it's gorgeous, and I love it. And I love the book because it's poetry. Stunning. So, there is that. Next, we have the Poe Tarot, which is a red feather. The cardstock sucks. It's thick and glossy. It's actually thin. Actually, this one's much thinner than the other ones I just showed you. But it's so large, I barely get my hands around it. Okay. Everybody keeps calling me. I'm going to shut my phone off for a minute. I'm just trying to get through this video. Everybody wants to call me at the same time. So, the Poe Tarot, it is a thinner cardstock. So, they're attempting a thinner stock versus the Guardian Tarot and the Guardian Tarot. They did edge it in red, blood red, which I love, but it just immediately started chipping. Plus, the box is so super tight. The gilding flakes off when you put the deck back in the box. So I actually shuffle it like this. These are the backs, and this is the front. This was my first official, maybe second official black and white deck. As a writer myself, I was not getting this deck. I had to get this deck. And then I use this deck for writing prompts. Like for the quote down here, like I'll use all of these words in a short story or something like that. That's how I use this deck. I don't really use it as a tarot deck. I mean, I have, but I see it more as a writer prompt deck. And for that, I love it. Because anything that helps my mediumship abilities or my writing abilities along is going to stay in my collection forever, no matter what. So, I do like the thinness of the cardstock. I hate the gilding because if they picked something that didn't fall, and the cards are just too large also. But despite that, I love the deck. So, next up, probably the worst one I have is it's a red feather, Clarity Tarot. They spent more time on the box than they did in the book than they actually did the deck. The box is a two-part, almost like a Los Scarabero, top-notch quality. It's not getting damaged. The book is freaking humongous and fabulous. Everything you need to know about anything, it's in that book. The cardstock, horrendous. They're more traditional tarot size. They're gilded gold, which half of it didn't even get gilded. Look at that. That didn't even get anything. It immediately started chipping away. The cardstock is paper thin. I can bend this whole deck like that. That's insane. It is paper thin. I mean, paper thin. However, the images are freaking stunning. It has a yes or no question. So that's what I use this deck for, is yes or no's. It has a love reading and a money reading right on the card, which I'm not mad at. It tells you 10 different ways in this deck to use this deck, which I love. I really do love that. I also have an issue with it's minor, I guess, but like the wands, it's almost like they couldn't decide what ethnicity to put in each suit. So they just jammed a whole bunch of different ones in the same suit. And I don't like that. Because I have so many decks where, like the Tarot Apocalypsis or the Tarot Illuminati, where each suit is a different ethnicity. So it kind of confuses you because in the wands especially, there's Asian, there's English, there's Native American, I think there was Mexican in there, and I'm like, pick one. And so that kind of drives me nuts. So we just saw the 9 of Wands that was Asian, and then this is a Native American, which I'm not mad at the card. It's beautiful. But it kind of irks me. And I'm like, just pick a card. Despite the fact that it's stunning, I don't use it as a regular tarot. I'll just use it as a yes or no deck because every card has a yes or no on it. And that's what I use it for. But the cardstock is a horrible, horrible miss. Horrible. I do like the backs. But it's horrible. And I'm like, if they had spent half as much time on the deck as they did the box and the book, this would have been a 10 out of 10 deck. They just didn't. So, there's that. And I think we're down to the last 3 decks. Nope, 4. So, this one is actually a hit because I think it's cool. It's the Marielle 2nd edition. It's got the silver gilding, but it's not biting. It's a smaller size, so I can riffle shuffle it. And it's the thinner cardstock. So, all the way around, it's a winner, right? I just went the wrong way. So, yeah, it's a gorgeous deck. Gorgeous deck. I love it to freaking pieces. This is my grandmother that just passed the last couple years. This is her deck. I had officially was like, nope, not going to buy it because it was on my wish list for a long time. Finally took it off the list. I'm like, nope, I'm never going to use it. And then my grandma passed and she was like, no, it's my deck. You need to buy it for me. And here we are. But I love it. I love the cardstock. I love everything about this deck. It shuffles well. The gilding doesn't bite into your hands. It's the perfect deck. Despite that, I have one more miss. The Bonfire Tarot 1st edition by Gabby Agnes West. I don't know what they were thinking. Schiffer. First of all, there doesn't need to be a border, and there's a border. They're huge oracle size. They're the thick cardstock, and they're freaking glossy, so I can't shuffle them in a traditional way. But they are stunning. It's a stunning deck. I can't work with this deck because it's too bright. And it hurts my eyes. And once it hurts my eyes, I start getting a headache. And it's a whole thing. I do have a seizure disorder, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. I haven't had a seizure in a very long time. But this deck almost feels like it kind of tries to trigger that. Which I hate. I can't stand the fact that I want to work with this deck. I want to use it. But I can't use it. It makes me sick. So that is the Bonfire Tarot 1st edition. So the last 2 are hits. And the next one is the Bonfire Tarot 2nd edition. This is the new one that just came out this year by, of course, Red Feather. This is the perfect freaking cardstock. It's matte. The edge, it comes in red, matte, which is beautiful. And I've used the crap out of this deck, so it's already a little chipping. But way better holding up than it would have had it been a hard gilding, like the silver and the gold. It's like pocket size, and I freaking love it. That's the backs. The colors are toned down, so I don't get the headaches. And I can use this deck, and I have used the crap out of it since I got it. It's freaking beautiful, and I freaking love it. 2 pieces. And I'm glad. I know a lot of people are like, no, it got lighter, and It's smaller, and I don't like the cardstock. I am so glad that Schiffer came out with this deck because it enabled me to use this deck. I love that it's a pocket size. I love that it's not glossy, that it's a matte instead of that glossy crap from like the Guardian Tarot. Even though they're a more smaller size too, they're very hard to shuffle because it's a thicker glossy cardstock. This one is fabulous and I love it to pieces. So that is the second edition of the Bonfire Tarot. And last but not least, we have the Sleepy Hollow Tarot that came out, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow Tarot. Of course, it is in a 2-part box again. It is a bigger deck. However, the cardstock, it's not gilded, so it's not biting into my hands. It does have a gold foiling on the back. It's reversible. The cardstock is like almost like silk feeling. And I'm like, Schiffer, well done. Because, first of all, the cards are gorgeous. And it is literally like a silky cardstock that's gorgeous. And I'm like, from now on, you can only do the cardstock from the second edition Bonfire or this one. Because they're both super duper winners in my book. Schiffer has really stepped up their game. Or Red Feather, whichever one you choose to see it as. They've really stepped up their game when it comes to cardstock this year. And I would say, of all the new decks I've gotten this year so far, Schiffer is the one to beat. Because they need to be the one to look out for. Because they're really trying to change it up. And so far, with these two decks, they've knocked it out of the park. And I love it. It's like butter in your hands. It's so soft. So soft. And I love it. And it shuffles amazing. Even though it's a bigger cardstock, I freaking love it. It almost reminds me of the Fyodor Pavlov Tarot, which we all know is like a buttery marble in your hands, almost like indie quality. And that's almost what it feels like with the Sleepy Hollow Tarot. But that is all the decks I have from Schiffer. That's all my Schiffer decks, I'm pretty sure. I went through all my decks, so I think that's all the Schiffer decks I even have. But that's the cards. These are the 3 hits right here. The Marielle, the Bonfire 2nd Edition, and the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. These cardstocks are freaking amazing, and I love them so much. They're hit cardstocks. And again, this is all my opinion. So take it how you want. But that is all I have on this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And y'all have a good afternoon. Bye.